ทำ
Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the continuation and with it another round of the Cruising USA GR86 Championship as hosted by the Middle of the Pack Racing League, the MPRL, on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing. And today marks round 3 of 12 as we are here still in the state of California, carrying on from last week of course, but we've made our way from Monterey County from round number 2 to Long Beach here in the county of Los Angeles and in the city of Long Beach. We're in downtown Long Beach for what is expected to be an absolute thrill of a race as our drivers get set to go racing around our first street circuit venue of the season. For it is none other than Long Beach Grand Prix circuit, also known as the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach, but either way you word it, this is a circuit that is steepled in motorsporting history, being a run around multiple numerous monuments across the course of Long Beach City, ranging from the water fountain all the way down by the beach side. You can imagine that our drivers here will be looking up to picking up key points with regards to their championship campaigns and also put a huge feather in their cap when it comes to win, for the simple reason that this is a circuit that in the past has played host to the likes of Formula One and Indycar and even Formula E, and therefore taking a win here is going to fill a driver with pride like you can imagine no other would. But as our drivers get ready to go racing tonight, let's take you through our schedule. Times in Greenwich Mean Time, that's GMT, or Universal Coordinated Time UTC. Our timings are as follows. In just under what will be 13 minutes time, we'll be heading into our qualifying session, 15 minutes in length, split into 2 equal halves, which we'll come on to shortly, and we'll see all our drivers make their way around and set their personal best as possible they can, of course, to take to the grid in the highest possible position, because straight away we'll then make our way over to the grid for our one and only sprint racer today, and that'll be in 30 minutes in duration, kicking off at approximately 5:30. Now, of course, with it being a street circuit, qualifying is going to be ever critical, and with 30 minutes of racing available, this is a circuit that is also open to plenty of overtaking. But with that in mind, of course, and with plenty of battles to come through, where you can ride on board with us throughout the entire journey today, tune in via 2 media platforms for your viewing pleasure. Firstly, if you are a YouTube user, you can go to youtube.com and search for TX11TX or Paul Walsh and tune in there. Alternatively, if you are a Twitch user, you can go to twitch.tv/TX11 and tune in on Twitch. Now, who is Paul Walsh? Who is TX11? I hear you ask. Well, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX11, or Britain a bit, depending on what media you follow me on, and I'll be bringing you all your racing action tonight and indeed for the remainder of the season. Now, a little bit of housekeeping we do need to point out. This broadcast, whilst it is being brought to you live, is actually focusing on a post-round broadcast. Now, what does that mean in layman's terms? That means that the racing action you're seeing behind you actually occurred early this week, and the action did occur on what was Wednesday, the 25th of January 2023, but we're bringing it to you as if it were live this Saturday, the 28th of January. So that means, as your host and commentator, I do not know what happens. I have not had any spoilers given to me with regards to the practice session that you're currently seeing going on in the background, the qualifying session, or indeed the race. And if you did take part in this race as a member of the series, we do ask, of course, kindly that you do not give away anything in the chat for the guys and girls tuning in at home, and of course for me as your commentator. But as we get set to go racing here, well, let's take a look at our schedule in terms of our season calendar and where we've got to so far and where we've still got to go to as the season rages on. Well, we can see now going into round number 3. Last time out, we kicked off the run in California, and we stay in California today for the Long Beach round. But starting all the way back in round number 1 with the commencement of the Big State Cup, with this series being broken into 3 cups. The Big State Cup opened up on the 11th of January with Watkins Glen International, and at the Cup Classic variant of the circuit there, we saw it was a battle of the slipstream, and you can imagine it was middle of the pack Racing League combines Toyota GR86s with NASCAR to give you that ultimate slipstream strategic experience. But there it was the rise of Jason Landry, but not without many drivers hooking onto the back of him and trying to battle their way to the finish line, but Landry was our season opening winner. Wind it forward a week, we then made our way from the state of New York to the state of California for none other than the Weather Raceway at Laguna Seca, and there under the Californian sun and in the dust and desert, we saw plenty of drivers put a foot wrong on the circuit, but some drivers got it definitely right, and the key one in the AM class, of course, was none other than Samuel Bernardi, who brought home an absolute emphatic win. But today we're in the city of Long Beach and race around our first street circuit venue, and we can imagine sparks will fly. We'll have to look and see whether any of our drivers who are current winners can become repeat winners, much like Jason Landry. Alternatively, where we'll see new individuals take to the top step, and then after today on the 1st of February, we'll be wrapping up the Big State Cup by heading to the state of Texas for the Circuit of the Americas. And there in our first feature of the season, well, there's going to be no qualifying session. It's all going to be about battles on circuit, overtaking, and also the key strategy in terms of coming into the pits. But that's in a week's time. We focus on today, of course, for the purposes of the intensity of the racing action, but also just to give you an idea of what still lies in wait. that after the first Cup, we'll have a week's break and then return on the 15th of February for the commencement of the Midwest State Cup, and that'll kick off in round number 5 in the state of Indiana, in Indianapolis, and of course the road course circuit there, and that'll be a sprint race before we make our way over to the state of Ohio for the Mid-Ohio Motorsports Course circuit on the 22nd of February, and then we head over to our 2nd Street circuit venue of the series, and that is none other than Belle Isle in the city of Detroit in the state of Michigan on the 1st of March. And then we wrap up the Midwest Cup with our second feature race round of the season at Road America in the state of Wisconsin on the 8th of March there. And what a classic circuit to have a feature race round. And indeed, these Toyota GR86 cars, whilst they may be slow compared to GT3s and cars of higher caliber race around there, you're definitely going to see they're in the draft and battling into the corners. It is going to be absolutely immense. We'll then have our second mid-season break before returning for the commencement of the Southern State Cup, a celebration, of course, of all the Southern states. And we'll kick off with round number 9 in the state of Georgia at the Road Atlanta roller coaster ride of a road racing circuit. And following on from the 22nd of March, we then make our way over to the Barber circuit, the Barber Motorsports Park in the state of Alabama on the 29th of March. And then we have our final sprint of the season in round number 11 into the state of Florida, and that's where we'll stay for the remainder of the series with Sebring there in round number 11 on the 5th of April, and then we bring it all to a close and the curtain comes down on the 12th of April with none other than Daytona Road Course USA as our drivers will be taking on the infamous circuit, which of course the 24 Hours of Daytona in Real World Motorsport is taking place at this weekend, and so there's a bit of a parallel there. But speaking of parallels, let's make our way and segue it across to our championship standings going into tonight. And we start off, of course, with our drivers' standings, remembering that our drivers are split into 3 classes, Pro, Prime, and Am, and we start off with the Pros. And after 2 rounds of racing, it is Jason Landry who leads the way by a margin of 20 points over James Carr. But there's an interesting conundrum here for our double winner of Jason Landry. Not in attendance today, that means he will lose ground in the championship, and that does open up a void in which all of our drivers have an opportunity to become the first alternative Pro winner. Can it be James Carr, the current second place runner, 7 points clear of Carl Ranieri, or will it be Matteo Giorgio or Ranieri themselves there, with Matteo Giorgio only a further point behind, and then we do have Aaron Lara further 4 points behind in P5. Not too far off the hunt for the top 5 there in P6, Jordan Butler on 68 points, only ahead of Mika Hendricks based on result countback with Hendricks P7, and then there is an 11-point gap to James Logston in P8, who we see return to the circuit tonight, and we look forward to seeing how he gets on. Ahead of Jerome Bagiles in P9 there on 53 points, and John Lauzon on 48 points there, completing our top 10. The driver who's had the worst run of luck so far, with both of his opening rounds completely scuppered by major incidents, seeing him to fight his way through the field, and he'll be looking to try and have a day without incident today, and potentially look to be in the top 5 if not the podium. Outside the top 10, best of the rest is Franz Walschink, a further point behind them, 47 points, and Tanner Dibble on 36 points, with Carlos Vila yet to compete in this series and therefore on 0 points. Now coming on to the Prime Championship, we see here for the Primes, it's Logan McKenzie who leads the way, but it's not by a huge margin, only 6 points over Alberto Alvarez, and of course Alberto Alvarez, your winner last time, not in fact last time out in the state of New York in our season opener, but it was not Logan McKenzie who took the win last time out in Laguna Seca. If you're looking for our round 2 win in the Prime class, you see him there in P4, his name is Craig Parks, with Logan McKenzie only 1 place behind in the end, but it's McKenzie's consistency that has rewarded him taking the championship lead. Donald Seepet there in at P3 on 63 points, 3 clear of Craig Parks, but Craig Parks having to carry that run of momentum for Laguna Seca to Long Beach today, and then Samuel Crown in P5 on 56 points, only 1 point clear of Milan Harris, and conscious of the fact that Harris is keeping him honest. Kurt Lane in P7 on 40 points, 1 point clear of Edwin Offre, but we are starting to see a battle for P7 develop, and that follows after the top 6, with the top 6 all entrenched in their own battle. And then behind Onofre in P9 is Ilya Speaker on 34 points, 4 clear of Adrian Fedorowski, and right now both Onofre and Speaker, 2 drivers have had a bit of disadvantage and bad luck in their class, and they'll be looking to have a better run of results today. In P11, their best of the rest behind Adrian Fedorowski is Lee Porter, 29 points, 3 clear of Jonathan Ballard, and then we have Krista Tarango and Carlos Hathcock completing your Prime Championship standings. Yet to get points on the board and therefore not classified at this point in time, Jermaine Warren, John Wilding and Justin Wiley. Now coming on to the AM Championship Division, we can see here that Daniel Sodino leads the way on 71 points, 12 clear of Fernando Takahashi. Sodino, of course, your winner in what was the season opener in New York at the Watkins Glen International Circuit, but not your winner last time out. That win went to Samuel Bernardi at the Laguna Seca Raceway Circuit, and Fernando Takahashi a constant in all of this in terms of strong results, and the same for Mark Senegal, albeit Senegal having a better run last time out in the state of California compared to at New York, and the converse was the same for Fernando Takahashi. A great run in New York, but not to work out his way in Monterey County. Then come on to Jack Davis in at P5, done 38 points, trying to hold on to P5 against the charge of both Dan Witchuk and also PG Christensen, joint on 37 points, with Christians behind based on result countback. And then we do have Billman DaCosta, Ian Usul, and Ian Henneberry completing the top 10. Best of the rest there, 2 points behind Henneberry is Roger Ganesh on 29 points in P11, 1 point clear of Auguste Blondel, with Dan Ocaranza only a further point behind, and it's 3 points away for Glenn at Bratton, with Rodney Felker there completing the top 15. He has a 1 point advantage over Albert Brand, and Spencer Cockayne and Nick Bader completing the championship standings there, with Elias Montanas and Tyler Montanas yet to score points and therefore not classified. Now coming on to the Teams Championship, of course our other championship for consideration here, we have Sunday GT Turtles leading the way by 30 points over Team Bear Pope, but I think they are going to fill the deficit in the absence of their leading pro driver at the moment with regards to Jason Landry today, and therefore it's an opportunity for Team Bear Pope and Beaver Buzz and MOP Jedi to all close up there and reel in the championship leaders. In P5, DNA Motorsports on 104 points, they're only 14 points off of MOP Jedi, and they'll be looking to try and get a little bit closer today, with Hassholes Motorsports there in P6 on 99 points, 6 clear of Pan Am Racing, a bit of rivalry developing between those two as they try to keep DNA Motorsports honest, and then Rockefeller Racing Pink, they are known as in full, in P8 on 89 points, 6 clear of Bear Pope 0, and MOP Stiff there in P10 on 66 points. Best of the rest in P11, only 2 points off of the top 10, Rockefeller Racing White, and it's QC Motorsports who bring up the rear in P12 on 30 points. Now coming from our standings, let's come to our circuit for today, and as we said earlier, it's none other than the Long Beach Grand Prix circuit, located in downtown Long Beach in the county of Los Angeles in the state of California in the US of A. This circuit, as you can see from the circuit map provided to us by simracingwiki.com, runs along the front of the bay and the marina, charging all the way through a number of major highlights, including the fountain that runs between turns 2 and 3, and also the wonderful the back straight, we should say, that runs on down there through one of the districts. But as our drivers make the way around this circuit, the key theme about this one is we have plenty of straightaways. We also have a number of wide corners on corner entry, not so in terms of the apex or the exit point, but with the majority of the corners here offering plenty of space to attack into the corner. It is going to be battles of plenty, but it's also about being tactical and knowing when to back out and when to keep your nose in order to try and get the move done. As our drivers make the way down through the start-finish straight, through the curve and head up towards turn number 1, they'll be heavy on the brakes there from their highest possible top-end speeds over the course of this circuit, and breaking the way into the left-hander of turn number 1, they'll quickly scoot on through it towards turns 2 and 3. Coming through the fountain complex to turns 2 and 3, you'll find in a lot of major series that the drivers will be asked to go one through there at a time in terms of one line astern, but for our drivers, they've not been given any directive with regards to that there to employ their common sense. So that means we could see 2 wide going into the fountain, but given how tight it is, only one will make it out and the other will have to back out, otherwise they'll find themselves in the wall. Coming out of turns 2 and 3, they'll make their way into turn number 4 there, a sweeping right-hander that sets our drivers up for the harsher turn number 5, and as they come off of the curb in there at turn 5, they'll head up towards turn 6 and 7, the double left-hander with the twin apex, before making their way downhill into the braking zone for turn number 8. Going for a 4-way junction, they'll roll the way onto the back straight in the charge down towards turn number 9. We expect plenty of overtaking opportunities there in the run to turn number 9, before they sweep their way through into turn number 10 and brake heavy onto the last corner, which is the hairpin, as it's of course known because it is a hairpin corner, but also it does have that dreaded title of the hairpin because of how tight it is at corner apex. And indeed, if our drivers do try to go 2 or 3 wide, we may see one driver find themselves going to the escape road and having to reverse back onto the circuit. But there's no limited overtaking zones on this circuit. Our drivers have been told as long as it's common sense being applied, they can overtake anywhere. And coming on to our race rules for today, we've got our standard rules in effect. Drivers shall run a fixed setup as provided by the middle of the pack racing league. Car fuel loads have been restricted to 35 litres for all races in this series. In terms of qualifying, an open qualifying format shall be used, lasting 15 minutes and split into 2 equal halves, with the AM class going out onto the circuit for the first half, so the first 7.5 minutes, and then the Pro and the Pro classes shall jointly take to the circuit for the second half. In the sprint race, each race starts via a grid start, so we'll see all the drivers line up on the grid and launch off the line in reaction to the lights. Each driver has 1 fast repair available. A driver shall receive a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 18 or more instant points, and should there be a major incident at the race start, a safety car may be deployed. Otherwise, the safety car shall not be deployed during the race, and that will apply throughout here today. Even though it is a tight circuit, if we see a major incident at the start of the race, we'll bring out the safety car, but beyond that, the safety car will stay away, and indeed our drivers will need to navigate their way around as safely and battle as safely as possible. But indeed, with the intensity being so high, we can imagine there might be a knock or two between drivers. But as we return to our live pictures here and get ready to go racing, well, most of our drivers are already parked up in the pit lane because we've only got 30 seconds to go before we do go into the qualifying session. As we do see James Carr parked up there, the privateer 9, this is a prime opportunity to score some big points, as it is for the likes of John Lawson, the Beaver Buzz energy driver here, going through turn number 5 as he rolls his way on through. And again, you can already see that reflection whereby there's a lot of width to this circuit, but also the barriers are there, they're thick, they're not thin, and therefore our drivers need to be conscious. They tap those barriers, they may just find themselves reeling off of them and not feeling in the healthiest of states. But the checker flag comes on out then. In terms of our final practice session, we get ready to go into qualifying. And as we do get ready to go into qualifying, we also say hello to a good number of you there in the YouTube and Twitch chat, including Samuel Bernardi in the YouTube chat, who says he's absolutely stoked once again to be tuning on in. And that's great to hear, Samuel. Hope you're doing well. And also in the Twitch chat, we do say hello there to GT Eddie. I believe that's Edwin Offrare, who's tuning in and absolutely loving the intro to our broadcast. Well, we're very glad to hear that, Edwin, and well, we're very happy to have you with us. But as we go into qualifying, if you are tuning in right now and you haven't said hello, do not be shy. Feel free to say hi. We do not bite here in the middle of the pack racing league. Indeed, we are continuously expanding and always encouraging more and more people, whether you are novice through to professional esports sim racer, to join the community, join our series. And that's why we do have free class in this series, but we are a very friendly community and everybody is welcome. But as our drivers welcome themselves back out onto the circuit here, and they have been given the green light, we'll see our AMs of course take to the circuit for the first time round, and there we do seem to have a little bit of an error with regards to our timing tower, deciding to put some times off the board. I think they're remnants of what is the practice session, so we will be right back, ladies and gents, with it to get that corrected. It seems though we're hitting the technical edge. We'll be back in approximately 30 seconds. And as we return, ladies and gentlemen, we do apologise about that. It did seem as though our practice times did bleed over onto our qualifying standings there, and we were to get that erroneous data out of the way for you. But as qualifying gets back underway once again here, when as our drivers make on out, what makes a perfect qualifying lap, I hear you ask? Well, the change around here is it's all about confidence. You need to have that ability to know exactly how wide your car is and also just how much speed you can carry from corner to corner and indeed into each and every braking zone. And in doing so, that means that really around here, there's no particular corner or set of corners or straightaway where drivers will make up time, albeit you can imagine if they get a bad run out of particular corners, they will have their deficit compounded on the next subsequent straight, such as the run out of turn at number 8 and the charge down towards 9, or the run out of turn number 11 down towards turn number 1. But still here, it's all about being able to carry the speed and also have that ability to run close to balls but never make contact with them. Of course, make contact, it can be tantamount to disaster, and all of our drivers will know that given the amount of practice time they've been putting in. The AM Championship leader here, Daniel Sedino, will also know that he needs just to keep it smart and keep it honest today if he wants to continue to lead the championship, because whilst it's close behind him, at the same time, the advantage he's carved out for himself does mean he does have a major opportunity to really continue to run that advantage high as he makes his way into the feature next week in Texas. But as he comes on down to turn number 8 at the moment, a lot of our drivers are also giving themselves a bit of time to warm up, giving themselves some space out of the circuit. But I think the ultimate laps may just be achieved if our drivers are in a distant tow of another driver, because we do have 2 extended straights, including the run to turn number 1 and also the run down towards turn number 9, and also some smaller straightaways in the run out of turn 5 into 6, 7, and also the run in what is effectively coming out of turns 2 and 3 and into 4, and they may just pick up an extra 10 for 2 or 3, depending on how much of a tow they get over the course of the entirety of the lap. But as we look from Sedino to Jack Davis here, already right now running very close to above his peers in the run down towards turn number 1. In fact, I think, yep, just taking a peel out there, or is he the driver on the left? In fact, he's the Rockefeller Racing driver who's going around on the inside here, and as our drivers both make their way onto their first flying laps, backs off, I think coming onto lap a little bit too close for comfort, and that's what you do not want, for the simple reason when you're that close going into a qualifying lap, if the driver in front of you even gets it wrong slightly, or even if they don't get it wrong, and you just find yourself you're on an absolute flyer and faster than them, then you have to back your lap off entirely. So really, I think he needed to start the lap approximately half a second back rather than that close within a 10th or 2, and therefore he would have bought himself a bit more breathing room of time as he makes his way out of turn 4 and up towards 5. But as he carries on through the right hander, we also look to Billman Da Costa here, making his way into turn number 1, and the bareboat drivers. We've got a driver around there, and we're not quite sure who that is, but they've definitely gone for quite the spin. But as he makes his way on through, I believe that was Rodney Felk getting it wrong. Oh goodness, goodness me, the damage on Rodney Felker's car immediately, and he's going to have to park that up and have it towed to the pit, because that is not the way he wants that Toyota to feel or look. But meanwhile, as he heads his way back to the pits, we do look to Fernando Takahashi here. We're not making his way to the pits, but instead staying out of the circuit as he comes through turns 6 and 7 and heads on down. And we do know that Takahashi, a very fast driver in his own right in this championship. Indeed, he's really been nipping at the heels of Cedino for both rounds 1 and 2 in terms of one-lap pace. But at Watkins Glen, he was denied by the tow, and at what was Laguna Seca last time, he was denied by a mistake or two and finding himself pushed backwards into a battle to be inside the top 5 in class. Or as he heads down into turn number 9, he'll be hoping that neither of those things ring true today as he comes from through the right-hander there of turn at number 9 and into 10. And very shortly, we will be riding on board with one of our drivers for a reference lap in the AM class. We do have some drivers already making their way across the timing line as Takahashi comes on through here to complete his current lap. Won't quite ride on board with him for the purposes of our first flyer, but as he makes his way on down here, what's he going to set for his first time on the board? As he heads onto the timeline, brings it close and over to the right-hand side wall, the 35.768, not too bad, a P5 so far, half a second off the fastest laps. But meanwhile, we look back to Spencer Cockayne, who makes his way through 10 and into 11, and here is the hairpin, and you can see just how tight it is there as they run their way off of the apex curb and just miss the wall by inches. And as Spencer Cockayne makes his way to the timeline, we jump on board here for a reference lap. Making his way down towards turn number 1, completely flat out here in the long run, keeping it over to the right hand side as he goes up to 5th gear and getting ready for his brake marker now as he comes to the curvature and onto the straight. Now looking over to his right, look for his brake marker. You see the boards there, and as he brakes his way down at what is 250 metres of quarter apex, coming down to 2nd gear, flows on through, and now into the fountain here. Fountain on the right hand side, into 2, brings it in tight to 3, goes a little bit deep and just avoids the wall there as he comes out of 3, now into 4, up to 2nd gear, rolls through 4 very nicely, and as he heads up towards turn number 5, holds 2nd gear, brings it in fact up to 3rd, stays in 3rd as he comes on through the corner, and now down towards turn 6 and 7 he goes as the road drops slightly and he heads onto the brakes. Look at his brake marker there and braking at what will be at the 150 metre point as he rolls his way through the left-hander, bouncing off the apex curve, rolling the car out through 7 and down towards 8, bringing the car over to the left-hand side. Quick sequence here as he gets back onto the brakes once again, braking at approximately 175 metres, clatters over the apex curve, doesn't carry too much speed off it and makes sure to settle the car down as he runs his way on down the back straight, now building up through the gearbox, up into 4th gear already, continuing to build on through as he heads up towards 5th gear and now get ready to brake into turn number 9, braking at the 200 metre board, coming down to 3rd gear, and as he rolls his way on through, bringing it over to the right for turn number 10. Deceptive apex is a very late apex, got to keep the car being threaded through as he makes his way into turn 11, onto the brakes here as hard as possible, down to 1st gear, 27 miles an hour on quarter exit, takes a little bit too much speed from the rear, gets unsettled, but it's such a challenging lap towards the very end, if not all the way through, but it's been a quite good lap from Cockayne. He's currently P11 as he comes to line a little bit of tap to the wall, improves to 36.859, but I think he feels as though it's not quite the lap he wanted as he heads on down towards turn number 1. What will be for him, I believe, the final time as he just crept across the line after the 6 minutes was declared in the qualifying session, and our drivers will now have to complete their final laps. If they're not on their final lap, then they'll be shortly heading onto them as we do see Cockayne make his way through the fountain section once again. But meanwhile, into the wall there, currently provisional pole sitter, it's Samuel Bernardi who tows to the pits. He's on pole by only 200, so he will not be putting any more laps in, and well, Auguste Blondel meanwhile with that 200th deficit as he comes on through turn number 11. You can see that the car's snapping as he gets the power down, and that's the thing for our drivers as well, because these cars are so light in their nature and they've got quite powerful engines. For 220 horsepower, these cars go through the gearboxes quite quickly. When they want to get that power down, they've really got to push it, but in doing so the car could become quite easily unsettled. Front engine rear wheel drive, this GR86 Cup car is provided by a Toyota, and of course tuned up by the North American division of Toyota Gazoo Racing. That's what the GR stands for. And meanwhile, as we see Marcelo crossing the line, Fernando Takahashi dethrones him from P3 and puts in P4, but it's in Henneberry. He's improved further as he goes to pits for 33.614, which puts him a provisional pole. Can anybody else now respond as Dan Vichuk here makes his way across the line? He does not improve and he decides he's not going to carry on for one more lap. Meanwhile, Nick Bader here making his way down through turn number 10, and a very colourful livery there, loving the colours on the car, and as he makes his way through 10 and into 11, really hooks up nicely on the apex curve at 10, and that gives him a really smooth transition for 11 as he heads the line here. Well, I don't think he's quite improved as much as he would like, but he heads on through to the timeline, bringing it over to the right hand side to shorten the run, and as he crosses the line, what's it going to be for him as he comes on through? We are waiting for that time. In the end, I do not think the time's been registered. And, well, with that, Vader has not improved as we see all of our pros and primes coming on out of the pit lane. But meanwhile, we do still have some laps remaining here for our drivers. We see some of the photographers on Marshall's trackside. But as we see Samuel Bernardi making his way on around, it's an out lap for him, so he will not be permitted to finish his next lap. Indeed, he will have to come into the pits after this one. But as our drivers head on down, we look to Daniel Sedino there a little bit further back. Gus Blondell as well has started to improve further. He actually crossed the line and improves to 34.500, and he was the fastest of anybody in sub-sector 2 of our AMs. Meanwhile, Daniel Sedino crosses the line. He does not improve, and well, we've only got one more AM driver making the way on around on a valid lap, and that is Jack Davies. Can he find a way to jump up into the top 5? But the AMs will dethrone Henneberry, but otherwise Henneberry with a gap of half a second there with Daniel Sedino. We will take pole position in the AM class as Jack Davies heads on down here, and well, he's not improved on the majority lap, and I don't think it's going to be improving here. In fact, he does improve in the end to 35.474. It's enough for P7, but it's not enough to get him up there into the top 5. So that's the qualifying session complete for our AM drivers. We now come to our pros and primes. Oh, goodness me, what on earth has happened there? We've had two of our drivers come together, and I believe that was Edwin Offred, and we're not quite sure who the other driver was. I think that's Mika Hendricks, in fact, as they made the way into turn number what looked to be 9 there. Hendricks just parked up and waited stationary. Well, something's gone very, very wrong. And meanwhile, Craig Parks making his way through turn number 11, but definitely a coming together of two minds, souls and bodies, and not the way neither of them wanted it to go. But as they make the way through this qualifying session right now, that will definitely cost them even more time, and they will have a limited number of laps. And to keep in mind, of course, our AM drivers only really getting in 3 fast laps, 3 valid fast laps at that. So qualifying is going to be in a pinch here, but if they do, well, they'll find themselves with the ultimate track position going into the race of the day. But as we see Craig Parks making his way through, of course, riding the wave of momentum from last time out at Laguna Seca in the Monterey County, as he makes his way through 2 and 3, sliding off the apex curve there of the fountain. You can see with that understeer starting to creep into the car, actually having to back the car off to avoid it from going sideways into the exit wall. And as he comes through turn number 5 at the moment, that's the problem here with these qualifying laps. Our drivers need the out lap to try and get that tyre temperature, and even on their first flying lap, these GR86 cars do not generate enough heat in the tyres by default to give our drivers the ability to go full attack. It's the second and the final lap which is where they have the temperature and they have the ability to really push the car, and that is the trade-off they find themselves in the fact that some of them will want to hit it quick, but in doing so they leave themselves at risk to having a botched opening flying lap, and therefore if they make it wrong going to the wall here, given the fact we've not got run affairs, all we've got are solid barriers, then as a result that means they'll go back to the pits and they have to start again, and they run out of time very quickly. But speaking of time right now, timing it straight away, Milan Harris goes overall provisional pole there for 33.520. The Rockefeller Racing pink driver immediately going to task as he comes through 2, 3 and up towards 4. You can see behind him there, that is Jerome Bajulas, who's also staying close as he's currently at half a second off of the time of Harris. I think he's trying to get himself into the mood and rhythm as he makes his way through 5, and that's also the thing here about these street circuits. When you race around them, what avoids you from going into the wall, I hear you ask? What prevents our drivers from finding the wall every lap? It is rhythm. You have to, in the end, as a driver, just ignore the walls. Think of it just like any other race circuit, whereby once you know where the corners, once you know where your braking points are, you just simply attack each and every corner like you would at any other circuit. Of course, the only difference is if you do get it wrong, the penalty is going to be much harsher and higher. But for drivers, they just completely ignore them in terms of those walls and just focus on putting those laps in and the racing that comes on through. But as the stakes continue to rise, meanwhile more times are coming on in, and well, right now we can see our top 2 drivers, or two of our top drivers in the Pro and Pro-Am categories making the way on through turn number 10 and up towards 11 they go, and Harris here really trying to get things done nice and early out of the box as he makes his way down towards the start-finish line here to improve his lap even further. He's improved in subsectors 1 and 2. Subsector 3 is not improved. Meanwhile, James Carr has improved considerably, but Harris there raises the bar to 33.434. Meanwhile, James Carr right now in what is, I believe, P17, but he's gone very fast in this lap, and he's going to jump up to P1 of 33.170. That defines Milan Harris and the pro driver there ahead of the prime driver now as he makes his way down towards turn number 1. And I think he'll feel as though he's established the norm, which is the pros should out-qualify the Pro-Ams on paper at least, but it never always happens in actuality, and we have had a couple of AM drivers really out-qualify their class, if you will, and put themselves right in amongst their other peers over the first 2 rounds, and we're seeing more of that today with Henneberry's lap for pole in the AM class, currently P3 overall, and that is staggering as our drivers make the way on around. But speaking of making the way on around, we will very shortly be jumping on board with Mika Hendricks for the purposes of a flying lap here as he heads on down the start-finish straight, and we're jumping board the car now, and he heads up towards turn number 1. Now accelerating in the charge to the next corner, of course, after that board's lap early on, but he takes provisional pole there for 33.022, so this could be another pole setting lap as he heads towards turn number 1, distant of one of his drivers in front. And as he gets ready to brake into the opening corner, brings it over to the right-hand side. Of course, they can't use all the width for as he brakes to the 300-metre board for the simple reason that's the pit lane exit. And they have to stay outside of it due to safety reasons, otherwise they will have their lap invalidated. As he makes way through, oh, goodness me! And the Rockefeller racing car there, I'm not quite sure who that was, but that was absolutely close to disaster for Hendricks, but Hendricks not hesitating at all, it must be said, as he goes over the rise and out to the dip at turn number 5 and up towards 6. And it's so easy to get it wrong here, as we're seeing from so many drivers. And again, these Toyotas, they are lightweight, they don't have much weight to chuck around, and therefore when that rear goes, it goes immediately, as we see Hendricks coming out of turn 6 and 7 in towards 8 he goes, braking there as late as possible, trying to get as close as possible to that inside wall, bouncing off the curb, just missing the wall there and charging on down the back straight. And as he charges on through, well, the last lap he did, of course, was the provisional pole lap of 33.022. He's gone purple in Sector 1. Sector 2, he's not improved. Sector 3, he's not improved either. And as he makes his way through turn number 9, which is all going to come down to this final subsector, whether he improves even more or not. You can see purple there at the bottom of your screen in subsector 1. Nobody able to match Hendricks right now in the opening sequence of corners. And as he exits the final corner, it's now the charge to the line, as he's continuing to absolutely hammer the timing. He'll have one more lap after this, given the fact he will cross the line with approximately 15 seconds to go. And as he crosses the timeline, it's not enough to improve. He's only 100th of his previous best, but an absolutely beautiful lap there from Hendricks as he heads on through towards turn number 1 once again. But as he heads on down, meanwhile, Craig Parks here making his way into turn number 9, and as he comes on through the right-hander in the 117 machine, well, I believe that may be in reference, I think that's a Halo reference, in fact. I Halo the video game with regards to Spartan 117, referring to, I can't remember his full name, but I believe it's Spartan John, who is Master Chief. But as he makes his way down towards turn number 1 right now, down towards the timeline, Parks definitely trying to put those times in, but it's not his day today to be the number 1 man in the Pro-Am class in qualifying. That accolade is currently going to Logan McKenzie, who only 3/10 off of the overall time as he heads on through 10 into 11 onto the brakes. And we say hello to Mark Senegal there, who is absolutely looking forward to a great race today. Well, as McKenzie makes his way towards turn number 1, and welcome to you, Mark. Well, I think right now for McKenzie, it's all about, has he had a good run to the line? He improved in subsector 3. Does he improve here at the very end? No, he does not, as we've got a car parked up there, and I think some drivers have to be cautious of it. But meanwhile, John Lauzon does improve, but in the end, it's only P14, or what is P7 in the Pro class, as meanwhile, Onofre improves to P4 overall, and P2 in the Pro class. It's going to be a Pro lockout at this rate, and he's dethroned Harris from that second row of the grid. As you can see, that Onofre only what was 400ths off of McKenzie in the end. We've still got a couple more laps to go. One from Hendricks here. He's improved in subsector 3 this time, but he's not improved in subsectors 1 or 2. As he heads to the line, what will it be for Hendricks this time around? He does not improve. And what about Tanner Dibble as he comes on down towards the timing line? He will be our final driver to complete a qualifying lap today. He comes on through from P6. He goes P2. It's a 33.138. Dibble there leaves it late, but he gets himself onto that front row alongside Hendricks. The two pros lock out the front row, with James Carr being pushed to the second row as another pro driver, which means Logan McKenzie will have the second row to himself as a prime driver, and it'll be Edwin Offer and Milan Harris P5, P6 ahead of your Ampole sitter of Ian Henneberry P7, who has put 3 pros between himself and the next AM rival and qualified Daniel Sedino in P11. This is definitely going to be a thriller of a race today, for the simple reason we have got a huge mix-up and medley of drivers on this grid, and with 30 drivers approximately at a tenth, in fact I think it's 31, and 4 drivers not qualifying, as a wax the wall there for McKenzie. Well, Adam Ballard comes across the line. We did have one more lap to go, and Ballard crossed the line right at the MP11 there and puts Daniel Sedino down a further place at a 34.083. That's qualifying complete. It's time for the grid. So as our drivers make the way to the grid, this is how they line up for round number 3. Tanner Dibble takes pole position for DNA Motorsports down to 33.140, only 200ths faster than the Beaver Buzz Energy driver of Mika Hendricks. Row 2 is occupied by James Carr, the pro, behind his two pro peers, and then followed up by pro and pole sitter P4 overall of Logan McKenzie, the privateer in P4. On the third row, we have Edwin Offred from MOP Jedi, joined by Rockefeller Racing Peaks Milan Harris, and it's Ian Henneberry, your and pole sitter for Bear Pope Zero, joined by Aaron Lahr, the privateer on row number 4. Jerome Bajulaz and James Logston complete the top 10 on row number 5. In row 6, Daniel Slinner from Hassel's Motorsports, joined by Pan Am Racing's Alberto Alvarez, and then behind him as we continue down the order on row 7, Fernando Takahashi, and with John Lauzon, and it's Auguste Blondot and Craig Parks on row 8, followed up by Nick Bader and Mark Senegal on row number 9. Row 10 completed the top 20, Samuel Bernardi and Donald Sepek, with Franz Washing and Jack Davis on the 11th row. 12th row goes to Dan Whitchuk and Glenn Bratton, and on the 13th row we have the pair of Billman DaCosta and Spencer Cockayne, followed up by Adam J. Ballard and Kirk Lane. And I believe we are going to get the lights very shortly, ladies and gentlemen, as Audra has been given the go-ahead. In fact, no, they're just revving their engines now. I thought we've had a bit of a false warning, I think, with our drivers revving their engines. But as the grid continues to line all up, we can continue to take you on through that grid. And we do apologise there. We thought there might have been a glitch with our timer. But we see Franz Washington, Jack Davis, row 11, row 12, Dan Witcher and Glenn Bratton, row 13, Billman DaCosta and Spencer Cockayne, row 14, Adam Ballard and Kurt Lane, row 15, Lee Porter and Roger Ganesh, and on the final row, row 16, Rodney Felker, P31 for Pan Am Racing. But now only 20 seconds away, and well, no more force warnings to the grid. We can now wait patiently for the grid to go, as we say hello there to Jan Barth in the YouTube chat. The Wall 34, good evening to you, Jan. Hope you're doing well. We're 10 seconds away from lights out, and who will be the leader in the run to turn 1? Will it be Tanner Dibble from DNA Motorsports, or will it be Mika Hendricks who starts behind? We await the lights. It's lights out and away we go for round 3 in the Long Beach Grand Prix, and as they make their way down towards turn number 1 in the long charge here, immediately Tanner Dibble gets the run on Mika Hendricks as they come on down in towards the braking zone. Hendricks trying to look around the outside. Meanwhile, further back, Logan McKenzie gets a good start on Edwin Offred as they head onto the anchors for the first time of asking in anger. You can see McKenzie there trying to go up the inside, but as they make their way onto the brakes, James Carr also looking on through and around. Further back, meanwhile, all of our drivers try to serpentine their way through the left-hander, all trying to steer clear but gain position and go 2 or 3 wide. Meanwhile, further back, Billman DaCosta there, also getting squeezed there a little bit by Adam Ballard, as meanwhile Nick Bader holds position. Now they're all very gradually and gingerly here creep through the fountain section for the first time today, as they make their way through 2, 3 and up towards 4, and as they do now, everybody can resume, and DaCosta there battling side by side with Witchuk, as Witchuk on his outside, and the Bear Pope Zero driver there having to give way to Witchuk as they make their way into turn number 5. But it's been a strong start for many a driver, and a couple of places gaining. Jack Davis from Rockefeller Racing White gaining 3 places off the start, 2 in the AM class, and showing no signs of hesitation as they make the way through turn 6 and 7. But as he comes up towards turn number 8 now, everybody forms back into formation here, and things will calm down after an opening sequence of corners, never to forget. But I think the one thing we can't forget right now is the fact there's been no major incident on this open lap whatsoever. I think there's been a couple of bumps and scrapes from what I'm hearing, but nobody in the wall, no major accident, and it's lovely to see. As we see Tanner Dibble from DNA Motorsports here leading the way into turn at number 10 right now, has a 1.1 second gap already, coming down towards turn at number 11, but everybody's squeezing their way into the hairpin now, and this is really painful when you come on through here in a long traffic line, for the simple reason everybody has the concertina on throw. But after one lap, it is Tanner Dibble who leads, ahead of Mika Hendricks in P2, followed up by James Carr in P3. The top 3 make the way on down. Behind them, Logan McKenzie, your prime leader, P4, followed by Edwin Offred. Then we have the AM leader, Ian Henneberry in P6, as they head up towards turn number 1. Milan Harris P7 ahead of Aaron Lahr, Jerome Bajulaz and James Logston, within John Lauzon at best the rest in P11, as the pro drivers gain 3 places off the start line, only overall position, not class position. But Lauzon having a good start, but he gets it wrong off turn number 1. He's into the wall, and for Lauzon, the bad luck continues, it would seem, as I don't be expecting the car to snap loose like that, but it's caught him out. But can he bring it back together as he loses a place to Daniel Sonnino? But he holds off Fernando Takahashi. He puts the cork back in the bottle before it all leaks out in terms of the places he's gained. But as he comes on through turn number 5, definitely not the way he wanted it to go, as he makes his way into turn 6 and 7. but coming on down towards the next braking zone here. Further behind, we can see Mark Senegal trying to put the pressure on versus Donald Seapeck as the Amdrive tries to come on through versus the Prime. But as he heads on through left-hander at the moment, you can see the Turtle smiling on the side of the car, and I think Senegal will be smiling the fact that he hasn't lost any places since the start of this race. In fact, he's gained 1 place in the Am class as he comes on down through turn number 8 once again. But as they all roll their way on through it, meanwhile we've had an instant a bit further. Oh, goodness me! And Dan Richard trying to get himself back pointed the right way, and there Rodney Fell coming to park up and let him go, and just in time. But meanwhile, Spencer Cockayne battling side by side here with Kirk Lane. Around the outside of turn 8 he goes, and he gets it done for Assholes Motorsports as he heads on down towards turn number 9. Meanwhile, further up the road, all of our Am's battling hard right now. Jack Davis here, and to try and keep Francois Schink at bay. Schink, a pro driver there, P8 qualifying well outside of his respective peers and much lower behind them. Well, right now as they make the way onto the start-finish straight once again, 2 laps turned in racing anger conditions. Well, you can see here Jack Davis right now showing no signs of letting go, only focusing on one thing, and that is chasing down Mark Senegal in front of him and also keeping Francois Schink behind him, because they make the way down towards turn number 1. What we should point out here is in terms of points accrued by our drivers, all the points they score are for overall position. Now, what that does encourage is that Am drivers are encouraged to battle with the Primes and the Pros as well. They are encouraged to aim as high as possible onto the grid, and therefore we're not expecting our Pros just to be let on by unless our Ams and our Primes, for example, see that it's actually a great opportunity for them to break away and get some major points rather than battle with a driver of another class, and that adds the intensity of the racing. There are bonus points available for our podium finishers in both the Prime and the Am classes as well, just to give them greater incentive, of course, to be trying to get towards the podium of their class as well as battling other classes. But it really means all the action can happen any turn. Oh my goodness, and Milan Harris into the wall coming out of turn number 8, and the car grinds along the wall. I think the suspension on the left hand side has taken a major battering, and you can see that rear left wheel, it's out of alignment, and can Milan Harris get it to the pit lane? That was an absolute horror moment for the Rockefeller Racing Pink driver. You never want to see that with the car bounce to the wall, but it has done, and now he's got to try and bring it back together. Meanwhile, battling side by side into turn number 10 they go, about to have Reds around the inside to outside of Winston and Takahashi, and as they come down here into the hairpin, they've exchanged places and they've made it work. But meanwhile, further back, Donald Seapeck here going very slowly, the Bear Pope Racing driver. He's been involved in a whack to the wall, it would seem, at turn number 9. Something's gone very wrong for him. As we're all saying that Francois Schink's been involved in some sort of incident a bit further back. Unfortunately, we can't bring you a replay of it due to the technical limitations of the iRacing replay file. But what we can do instead is look further up the order and look to our leaders right now. As we see Tanner Dibble here losing that lead he had early on, and now under pressure from Mika Hendricks and James Carr behind, as the top 3 are gradually trying to break away from Logan McKinsey and Edwin Offred behind. The top 3 are pros ahead of the 2 Prime drivers. But as this top 5 roars its way on through the corners, meanwhile Aaron Law further back there in P6, he's trying to get some yardage versus Jerome Pachulas, who also has a moment to the wall there as they make the way through turn number 4 and into 5. It was only briefly at the back of our camera angle, but we saw it grazing the wall as he bounced off of the turn 4 apex curve. And now James Logston thinking about looking for the move up the inside here into turn 6. He's going to go in for his Logston. He goes all in, but there's space on the outside of Pachulas to come back to the inside of 8. It's going to be side by side in the drop down towards the right hander. Pachulas down the inside, Logston on the outside. Logston's going to carry all the momentum around. They both giving one enough space as they make the way up towards turn number 9. They continue the charge here. Meanwhile, Milan Harris behind there, you can see tucking in behind James Logston on the right of your picture. Just a sign, I think, to let them fight it out. But Pachulas on that inside line has just not got the overspeed. Instead goes defensive here to make sure that Harris cannot capitalise and come on through and gain an overall position. But as they come through 9 and into 10, they settle down for now. Meanwhile, in the battle for the AM lead, here's Daniel Stino, your race leader in the AM class, ahead of Fernando Takahashi and Samuel Bernardi as they make the way into turn number 11. But these 3 so close together as it looks so Jerome Pachulas has had a spin there coming out of turn number 11, or at least a mistake, and as a result that's cost him very dear as Milan Harris into the pits, and the same for Jerome Pachulas. I think it might be a knock to the wall for both drivers, and therefore they're both going to drop down positions immediately. But meanwhile up front, Tanner Dibble defending for the lead in this race versus Mika Hendricks. But as they come out of turn 1 into 2, Hendricks gets the brake back on there. He knows you can't go too wide through the fountain, you have to go 1 wide, and as they make the way line astern out of the fountain towards turn number 4, the fighting continues at the front and the middle and the back of the field as our drivers right now all come to terms with how the race has started, and now they don't want it to end as Dibble almost loses it coming out of turn number 5. The man is dancing on ice there, albeit proverbially, but the point stays the same. That was very near to going to the tyre barrier, and as he comes up through turn number 6, 7 right now, you can imagine he will not want to be doing that again in a hurry. But as he heads on down towards the next corner, meanwhile Craig Parks here trying make some ground over Samuel Bernardi as the Am driver loses a bit of momentum here versus Daniel Sedino. And he's on a poor run off of turn 5. Bernardi's going to keep on the inside. He doesn't want Craig Parks to get on through, but in the end Parks is just going to simply go around the outside and say, well, don't mind if I do, as he heads down towards turn number 8, but he gets a poor run off of 6-7, and in fact Bernardi comes on back around the outside of him into 8. And I think right now both of these drivers need to settle it down, because well, for Bernardi, he needs to chase down Sedino in front. And you see Sedino flashing his lights down. I wonder what that's to try and signal to somebody ahead of him. But as he makes his way down towards turn number 9, the key thing here for Parks is that if he can stay close to these AM drives, then he'll find himself right up in the battle with fellow prime driver Alberto Alvarez for P3 in the class a little bit later on in the race. And that's going to have a major implication in terms of the championship standings. Meanwhile, speaking of implications, we're in the battle for P11 right now. A number of AM drivers who have really been called down. They've got damage over the cars, including Fernando Takahashi, as we hear that Milan Harris has had to be towed to the pits due to an incident, and that is very unfortunate for Harris. It was having a good run at the start, but it's all gone wrong for him in the last couple of laps. But meanwhile, here we've got 3 wide almost, as that is Adam Ballard, Franz Washington, Glenn Bratton coming together, and well, Ballard's trying to pick his way on through the Rockefeller Racing white driver, as is Franz Washington, who does manage to navigate his way between the AM and the prime driver as they come through into turns 9 and 10, and as they head in towards 11 here. Well, Ballard right now just simply finding some pace behind Takahashi, but he's also got Glenn Bratton who goes a bit deep and loses it under braking slightly in terms of has to let the car go, as he brings it back together now, making his way up speed once again in the charge down the start finish straight. But Rodney Velker now under pressure from Francois Schink on the outside here on the right of your picture, now left of your picture as the camera turns on around, and as they make the way towards turn number 1, which one of these drivers is going to back out first? Will it be Velker on the left? Will it be Schink on the right? Or on the brakes they go, and in fact I think Velker backing out. I think in fact Velker's on the right of your picture. We should correct ourselves there, and let's go for Pan Am Racing as he makes his way through turn number 1. But as they head on through 1 and into 2, meanwhile we look to Roger Ganesh here side by side with Spencer Cockane a bit further up the road in the battle for what is P8 in the AM class, and overall 18th place as they make their way down towards turn 6 and 7. Onto the brakes they go. Ganesh gets the place of Cockane, but for how long will it be before Cockane tries to come back at him in the run to turn number 8 as they make their way towards the right-hander, getting ready to go onto the brakes here, but already Ganesh starting to open a bit of a gap, and it may just give him the breathing room he so desires. But meanwhile, speaking of 2 drivers who've got no breathing room between them, here's your race leaders, Tanner Dibble versus Mika Hendricks, and Dibble on the inside there on the right of your picture towards the braking zone for turn number 1. Hendricks getting the nose ahead, but of course it's not going to matter if he's on the outside. They come together, and as they do, the knock between the two of them doesn't see either one go to the wall. They're too wide into the fountain. Now how on earth are they going to survive this? They somehow do, and Hendricks gets on through. My goodness, I cannot believe it. In all my years of seeing racing at Long Beach on iRacing, I have never seen 2 wide work out that well for the driver who goes on the offensive into the fountain. But Hendricks, my good lord, that man has taken his bravery pills and then some today, because that was absolutely phenomenal. I'm putting it out there right now, ladies and gentlemen. If there is an award for overtake of the season, that is up there by a mile already as they make their way into turn number 8 once again. You just do not see that as there's a tap to wall for Tanner Dibble, and right now I think Dibble must be absolutely shell-shocked inside the cockpit of his car with regards to what happened. Meanwhile, looking back to P5 driver here, Edwin Offray, we jump on board with the MOP Jedi driver. Continue to stay close to Logan McKenzie, but with all this squabbling between the top 2, it's brought Carr in P3, also McKenzie and Offray up there, and this top 5 right now all looking at its potential overall win as well as their class wins in both the Pro and the Pro-Am classes. We've still got a long way to go. We've only just cleared 1/3 of the race. We've still got 19 minutes remaining as they make their way down towards turn number 1 here. Well, right now I think it's a patience game for the 2 Pro-Am drives, because they know if they get too close to the pros in front of them, then they'll end up being forced back to battle one another. And it's particularly prevalent for McKenzie here, who really needs to find a balance in this race, and if needed, he might need to start thinking about making the pass of Carr, given the fact that he is being arguably held in place right now rather than given the opportunity to run in clear air. As they make their way through turn 1 and into the fountain once again through 2-3. This time no theatrics or heroics. They make their way through at single file as they head up towards the next corner. Meanwhile, further back as we jump away from Edwin Offray down to P16 driver Alberto Alvarez, continuing his way up through the field after losing multiple places at the start of this race. His next target will be in Henneberry as he makes his way up towards 1. Henneberry there, of course, was your AM pole sitter. Did not work out from the very start of this race, dropping 8 places at the beginning. And right now, the Bear Pope Zero driver doing everything in his power to try and hold on to position as he heads into the fountain, and does enough this time as we hear that there have been, oh goodness me, it's a knock to the wall there at turn number 3, and then it goes on a round, and the Bear Pope Zero driver, well, that's gone from good to bad to worse right now as he drops behind Marcelo, who came on through there in the smoke as he makes his way back up to speed as Henneberry, but definitely not going the way he wanted it to. Meanwhile, looking back to the other Bear Pope Zero driver, Kirk Line, he's going to be on the outside initially through the curve in the run to 1, but he gets ahead there. Donald Seapack as they make the way down towards turn number 1, onto the brakes they go, and as they roll the way into left-hander at the moment, Seapack falling back a little bit there, but I think the two Bear Pope drivers, both respecting one another at the moment, opting to give the faster driver of the two the opportunity to go hunting after the next group in the prime class. But as they emerge from the fountain section, this is towards the rear of the field in the battle for P25, P26. Meanwhile, looking back up to Jack Davies here, the Rockefeller Racing white driver, and Jack Davies has come through the field like a missile, we should point out. He started in what was P22. He's running P11 overall right now, P3 in the AM class, having started P8 in said class. He is absolutely on a mission here, on the podium potential spots now. He has got Gus Blondell behind him, and Blondell's gained 3 places overall, but no class position. Jack Davies has been working extremely hard here, as of all our drivers, but his efforts are being noticed as he makes his way down towards turn 1. Behind him is Nick Vader, who's not too far back, albeit between these got Billman DaCosta, who is a lap down due to incidents earlier on in the race. But as they make the way in towards another lap, well, Daniel Sedino, meanwhile, your AM leader here as he comes through turn 4 and in towards 5, definitely under pressure as we ride on board and look back from the lead Hassel's Motorsports car in class. Coming out of turn number 6, turn number 5 and up towards 6 very shortly, we should say. Well, right now, Bernardi giving him no quarter when it comes to breathing room here as they make the way into left-hander, and as they come through the corner, you can see the difference in lines there. Sedino taking a much more aggressive run towards the inside wall, and meanwhile, by comparison, Bernardi there having to go a little bit deeper out of the wall, in fact, taking too early in apex to give him the apex speed he desires. But as they come through 8 and down the back straight, the gap stands at just under half a second, and it will gradually come on down as they make the way towards the next corner here. 16 minutes still on the clock, plenty of opportunities to come, but both drivers right now into this rhythm as they slide their way off the brakes, back onto the accelerator from 9 into 10. Behind him is Craig Parks, the prime driver, who currently is P3 in class. He's got a long way to go to the top 2 in class, but as they make the way on through the hairpin, you can just see how close they get over the course of the apex curve there. Nobody wants to tap the wall, but they need to be as close as possible to it to get the best possible exit out the corner. But Daniel Sedino right now holding position as they head up towards turn number 1 and got onto the 10th lap of racing as they head across the line there. And now, will it be Bernardi who starts to get a little bit closer in the run on the next lap? He's within 2.5 tenths as they get ready to battle onto the brakes up towards top speed. But now as they make the way into the more tight and twisty section of the fountain, this is where the gap will start to stabilise. But speaking of close gaps, we look back up to Hendricks here, who after his heroics of the fountain a couple of laps ago, right now keeping Tanner Dibble at bay, albeit James Carr still with them as well. And this top 3 is starting to inch itself away from the battle for P4 overall, and the lead of the prime class here as Logan McKenzie in the privateer Tide machine under a bit of pressure. But meanwhile, we've had an instant there for Daniel Sedino. It's at turn number 5. He's gone round the Hassel's Motorsports driver, and with it, we believe that may have been of his own volition, but the 240 car has fallen spray to the wall at turn number 5, and with it would seem he's lost multiple places as well. I speak for a brief moment, and Jack Davis goes round on the exit at turn 6 and says, oh goodness me, and he just does not get out of the way in time there. Oh, that was cars coming on through, everybody trying to come their way out of turn 6 and 7, and you can imagine for the guys emerging from the corner, they're blind until they clear the second apex at turn 7, but Jack Davis, they're just trying to get the car turned on around and losing plenty of places, as has Daniel Sedino. But meanwhile, Mark Senegal here in the drag race for Sunday GT Turtles. Wheelbarrow Alvarez on his inside, Alvarez on the left of your picture, and as they break the way into turn number 9, I think he'll let Alvarez go for the simple reason here. Well, he's gained places so far, and Senegal focusing more on gaining place in the AM class rather than overall. He's currently P5 in class, and that result we're doing very well today, given just how intense and how close the AM class has been all season. But as we see a drift there, a bit of oversteer kicking in for Alberto Alvarez. Again, that first gear exit out to turn number 11, really catching so many drivers out when they're trying to put the hammer down, and the rear is just not settling as much as they want it to. And as they make the way on to the next lap, well, Senegal will be doing everything he can to stay in the tow as close as possible to Alvarez and hope that Alvarez can pull them up to the next back. But meanwhile, as we look to Jerome Bajulas here, battling with what is Rodney Felker in front of him, trying to find his way on through. Felker going quite slowly there through turn 10, losing the line as well, as we're in that Spencer Cockayne has had to be towed to the pitch due to an incident between himself and Adam J. Ballard, where it seems as though the two drivers have come together at some point off camera. But meanwhile, pro driver here, Bajulas, in the BBOS Energy Machine, going high around the outside of what is Felker, and gets ahead in the run to turn number 1. And well, there, I think it's going to be quite a straightforward move as he gets ready to go back onto the brakes. Further behind over, meanwhile, Dan Vitchuk chasing after Glenn Bratton as they head up towards turn at number 1. And Bratton going quite slowly there. I think there's quite a bit of damage on the car. In fact, we can see it. He's missing the whole bonnet or the hood of the car. And as they make their way in towards the next corner, with Vitchuk's just going to have the run in terms of straight line speed here. And Bratton may have some manoeuvrability in the corners, but he's just got no top end without the hood of the car on the car. As they make the way into turns 2 and 3 right now, they change places, and that was P10 in the AM class being picked up by the Pro Jill Witchuk, as meanwhile Bratton's fallen back to the P11 in class and P25 overall with it. As we look from them back up towards the front of the field, well, here is your leader right now, your pro leader and overall leader of Mika Hendricks from BBOS Energy, who continues to hold on for now, but with 6 tenths between himself and Tanner Dibble, and James Carr still there. At any moment this could change, and all three drivers absolutely dancing their way through the course. You can see the little wobble there from James Carr coming out of turn 5. That's all you need to tell you that these guys right now are running on the ragged edge of adhesion, and one small error, just pushing it a little bit too hard, could be the difference. But speaking of differences here, Nick Bader, who we need to point out has jumped a long way up through the field over the course of this race just by simply staying out of trouble. He literally allows on go there, allows on goes around the outside into turn number 1. The pro driver on a recovery drive still, but speaking about Nick Bader, the private in the 233 car, he has come from what was P5 in the AM class and what was P17 overall up to P13, P4 in the AM class. He did drop down the order a bit early on, but he's just simply steered clear of trouble. He's avoided all the carnage and chaos that was potentially around him, and in doing so has picked up plenty of places, and right now running a really solid drive. But as he heads on through turn 6 and 7, he has to be conscious of the fact that this man is trying to chase him down. Mark Senegal right now, albeit on that last lap a little bit slower compared to Bader, but their lap times are averaging out in the way where the Canadian of Senegal is approximately a tenth or two faster a lap, and with the gap standing at only a margin of 6 seconds, where there's any mistakes from Bader, then it could swing the other way. But meanwhile, we look from them to Tanner Dibble here, who looking back to the P2 driver overall, and in the pro class, he's got up his inside James Carr. Carr comes in very hot, he gets the move on, and Dibble just misses the tyre barrier there as they make the way into turn number 2. James Carr getting ahead now, but the gap between himself and Hendricks opens up to 1.3 seconds, and as he heads into the right-hander here, well, the change will be in terms of James Carr. Can he find a way to break away from Dibble, or get Dibble to settle down behind him, and they'll both go their way after Mika Hendricks, or will the battle for P2 intensify? Meanwhile, we can look here to your AM leader Samuel Bernardi, who haven't taken the lead of this race after the error that was made by Daniel Sedino, and right now the privateer chasing after Craig Parks. Craig Parks recently passed him, in fact, on the run out of turn number 11 onto the start finish straight. I don't think the 212 drive is going to be too plussed about this, for the simple reason that he's running a very strong race right now, and if he can pick up the win here, regardless of overall finishing position, that gives him all the momentum he needs going into the feature race next time out of the circuit of the Americas in Texas. But as he comes out of turn number 5 and down towards 6-7, he's got a Gus Blondell behind him there, and Blondell right now is absolutely flying, as meanwhile flying the wrong way round is John Lowes on the BBOS Energy driver, again just caught out by a corner and goes for a spin at turn number 5. It's a knock to the wall, he's lost the bonnet of the car, and that is going to cost him a huge amount of straight line speed. That's going to cost him approximately 5 to 6 miles an hour on the long start finish straight. And even on the back straight, Hill feels like he's losing about 3 or 4 attempts in the toe as he makes his way into turn at number 8, and it's just not working out with the 77 driver. And so he's got Mark Senegal closing behind, and as they make the way up towards turn at number 9, I think Senegal very shortly will be thinking about coming on through, and already he went out of turn number 8, 4 attempts back, and they've only just made it halfway down the straight. He's already within a tenth, he backs off here. That goes to show when these cars pick up damage, that aerodynamic damage on the front of the car, that's significant. They lose an absolute plethora of straight line speed, and well, it's going to be even more noticeable when they make the way onto the start finish straight as they come out to turn number 11, and we can see the sign that's saying visit Long Beach. I think our drivers are enjoying the visit to Long Beach in varying degrees depending on how the race has gone. But Senegal here currently about 9 tenths behind. In fact, not the best run out of the corner as he runs his way on down. Meanwhile, we've heard that Adam Ballard has had to be towed to the pits. We were going to take a look at where exactly he was on track, but then he's already made his way back to the pit lane, and Will Sainz gone very, very wrong for the prime drivers. Meanwhile, Glenn Bratton there just braking slowly into turn number 8 and deciding to steer clear, given the fact that right now the car wounded and he's got the leaders coming on through. And we're speaking of the leaders here, Logan McKenzie, your prime leader, P4 overall. Well, he's going to have to go defensive into 9 as Onofre pins him to the inside. But as they make the way into turn 9, things open up. Onofre tries to turn in, but McKenzie's close as there's a car around, and that's James Carr. James Carr's gone for a spin at turn number 9, and with it, right now the prime leaders come on through. And now for McKenzie and Onofre, this is even more significant. It's not about just the win in the prime class, it's also taking P3 overall. And the thing about that will be James Carr now, given the fact he is running in second place in the Pro Championship, he will want that P3 back because he'll get a greater number of points for his championship campaign, and it will set him up for success versus Landry, who we expect to return potentially in a week's time. But as they make the way down towards turn number 1, well, right now McKenzie won't be thinking about James Carr, he'll only be thinking about Onofre as they make the way through turn 1. He goes a bit deep there, and Onofre's going to try and get the run. Is he going to go for it in? No, he's not. He stays right behind. But as they come on through the right-hander, a turn 2 and into 3, through the fountain they go. Goodness me, they could not be close, and I think Onofre was thinking about it. I definitely would suspect he was thinking, do we make this too wide? As they come out of turn number 5, given the fact that Hendricks and Dibble were able to do it earlier, it is possible. But as they head their way up towards turn 6 and 7, not that time around, as they make the way into the double left of 6, 7, and come out through and up towards turn number 8. The racing continues here, it never stops at Long Beach. This is an intense run to the very end, whether it be in the pro class, whether it be in the prime class, or even the AMS further down the field. But regardless of which class, this is the way we want it in the Cruising USA GR86 Championship, and I can only imagine this is what it's going to be like for the remainder of the season. Well, I'm going to have no voice left by the end of it, and I think in the end we're going to have so many magic moments that in the end we'll have to find a new term for some of them, because not everything can be magic, because if everything's called magic then technically nothing is, as they said in the Pixar movie The Incredibles. But you get the point here, this is the standard of racing that we've come to love and see, as I try to make the way through turn number 11. Meanwhile, further back, Jack Davis, they're going a bit slowly, coming out of 5 into 6, 7 he goes. He lets Francois Schinkon through. As they make the way through turn 6 and 7 up towards 8. Well, right now Javis just staying close behind and not really letting it admonish his race, in terms of the fact he's currently running in P6 in class. He'd like to go hunting down Mark Senegal, who is 2 seconds up the road. You can see Senegal there at the front of the quartet, which has got John Laus on it just behind him as well. And as they make the way up towards turn number 8 at the moment, no exchange this time, but all 4 drivers definitely cognizant of that they may want to exchange places in a quick fashion soon enough. But as they make the way through turns 9 into 10, meanwhile we look back up to the battle for the prime lead here, with our top 2 in the pro class of Hendricks and Dibble now separated by 4.4 seconds, and it would seem that Hendricks has really started to open up the power, as he's now setting 32s on a regular basis versus 33s to Dibble, and is breaking away at the very front. But meanwhile McKenzie and Onofre both lapping in the mid 34s, they're stripping time out of one another. But meanwhile, oh goodness me, what on earth is this? Craig Parks has had a moment with the wall at turn number 1 and is dropping down the order. He's still P3 in the prime class, but he's dropped from what was at the time P8 overall to P11, and that man behind him, well, you don't need him to introduce himself, it's Alberto Alvarez, the Pan Am Racing driver here, who right now will do anything, I think, to close up and get that P3 off of Craig Parks to give him a better run in the championship stakes, given the fact he's leading the championship class, but that lead is gradually being reeled on in. But as he makes his way down towards turn 6 and 7 here, into the tricky left-hander, we look from him back up to James, in fact we look up to Edwin Onofre here, as, oh goodness me, what on earth has happened to Edwin Onofre's car? One moment we looked here, he was running absolutely fine behind McKenzie, and well, there's been some sort of scrape or incident for him. In fact, we just had that car up on our data, as it seems though it's been a major incident around turn number 9, and with it that has put him a long way off of Logan McKenzie. And with that car very heavily wounded here, and I'm surprised it's not potentially a orange and black flag or a meatball flag, as they say, for repair work, but he's going to carry on here. But meanwhile, further back we see Fernando Takahashi battling with Glenn Bratton for P11 in the AM class. Takahashi on the right, see a picture of Bratton on the left, and Bratton with the damage on the car, just no straight line speed by comparison here, and Fernando Takahashi comes on continue through very quickly as they make the way up towards the fountain. But with just under 5 minutes to go, still a couple of questions to be answered, including who will be your second place finisher in the AM class here as they make the way down. But meanwhile, before we come to that, James Carr's just had a moment at the fountain. As we understand it, it was a moment with the wall, and James Carr's dropped down the order, in fact, after a spin, which saw him drop down to P5. A further man has dropped into P7 behind Edwin Offray, and an Offray with a wounded car. James Carr, the wounded machine as well. You can look at the damage on the side of James Carr on the right-hand side from the driver's perspective. And Offray running without a bonnet, and as they make the way down, in fact, running without a front bumper as well. Well, both got drivers here running around in cars that definitely have seen their share of pain today. And as they make the way down the straight, Samuel Bernardi a bit further back here, where he's currently running in very clear and enjoying this run in the AM class lead with an advantage of 4 seconds over Gus Blondo, who we see here under pressure from Daniel Sedino. The two teammates here battling into turn number 8, and it's going to be Sedino on the inside, Blondo on the outside, and more than that, he doesn't make it overly difficult. He fights it, but they change place, and Daniel Sedino moves up to P2. He's now got 5 seconds to close, and as Sedino continues to roar and down in towards turn number 9 here. Well, he's currently closing at a rate of knots to Bernardi of 3 to 4 attempts a lap, but he's going to need a lot more than this, and he's going to need less than that as he goes round at turn number 9, and Sedino just pushing it a little too hard with tyre degradation starting to be felt, and with it he drops down to P11, and I think that will be a drive into the pits there. That was a big shunt to the wall, and with it I think that may just be a car that does need major repair work. But meanwhile, as he comes on through here, and in fact he will be peeling in, we suspect, as that car is limping on through. Meanwhile, Logan McKenzie here, P3 overall, as he heads up towards turn 6 and 7. Well, right now trying to hold off both James Logston and also Aaron Lahr, for the simple reason that both drivers there in the Pro class, they want not just P3 in class, but they also want P3 overall. As we're hearing, Dan Sedino in fact has stayed out, he's not come into the pit lane, and Nick Bader has now jumped up into P2 and P3 in the class as a result, P12 overall, as you see that on the timing tower. But meanwhile, focusing on what's on our screen, we can see here Logan McKenzie being pressured hard as they make the way up towards turn number 9, and as they head into the right-hander, well, Aaron Lahr behind. We ride on board here with the P5 overall driver as he heads up towards turn number 10. Race leader of Mick Hendricks going on to another lap. We'll have 2 more laps to go after this one, and as they head through into turn number 11 into the hairpin, of course, all 3 drivers, Constantine up here, 3 unique lines as well. Logston deciding to take a bit more of an aggressive approach to the curve compared to his 2 rivals as they get back on the power, but they all stay the same as now they charge their way down towards turn number 1. Now, we have just had confirmation that Daniel Sedino has had to park up and be towed to the pits, and that puts what could have been a good result in the end all to tatters and misery for the AM driver. But as we continue to watch here the battle for P3 unfold, they make the way up towards turn 1's braking zone. Onto the brakes they go, and it looks so there. It's been a disaster for Logan McKenzie. I think there may have been contact between himself and Logston. Logston, they've been pinballed back out of the way, and Aaron Lahr tries to come through, but as they make the way through, goodness me, all 3 drivers there escaping it, albeit for both Woods McKenzie and also Logston. Those 2 have definitely taken wounds to the car. Meanwhile, Aaron Lahr in a car that's absolutely clear of damage right now will just simply need a straight to be able to get on past McKenzie, and here it is as McKenzie peels out of the way. He's not got a car that can fight effectively anymore, and Aaron Lahr moves up into P3 overall and in the Pro class here right at the death of the race as he makes his way through turn 6 and 7. All he's got to do now is simply keep ahead in the corners, and then James Logston should, we would expect, fall backwards on the straights, but he's just not got the aerodynamic run anymore. And already as he exits the corner there, 4 tenths between the 2 of them. You can see the toe is having an effect where Logston is creeping closer, but nowhere near as much as he would do with a car that was in full working condition with regards to its aerodynamics. But as they make the way down the straight, McKenzie continues to flash his lights. James Carr a bit further back, and he's got behind him Samuel Bernardi, but Bernardi is a best part of what is 15 or 17 seconds back off. As meanwhile, race leader Mick Hendricks, who we see here, comes across the timeline and goes on to one final lap. We'll get 20 laps of racing in today here in the city of Long Beach, and as he makes his way down towards turn number 1, well, right now he leads by 7 seconds over this man, a Tanner Dibble, who comes on through, and well, with it, can the DNA Motorsports driver just bring it on home now, given everything we've seen, given all the moments, the nightmares that so many drivers have had late on in this race, as we've got a car around there, and that is, I believe, Ian Henneberry, who's gone for a spin. Coming out the fountain, I think there might have been a bit of contact with the outside wall to upset his rhythm, and behind him he's got Witchuk, Dan Witchuk closing up gradually in the battle for P8 in class. But meanwhile, we've got Logan McKenzie having to park up on circuit, be towed. So for McKinsey, it's all gone wrong right at the last hurdle. And well, with that, ladies and gentlemen, that means that right now, running in a car that's seen much better days, and he goes on to the final lap. He's leading in the Prime class, but Alberto Alvarez comes on through and he takes the lead of the Prime class, going on to the final lap here for Edwin Offred. I don't think you can quite believe it, that technically right now, he will be finishing on the podium in a car that has been bruised, it has been battered, and it is being passed by Craig Parks, who goes around the outside to inside into turn one. And to be fair, I don't think Offred's going to fight it. I think he's just going to run his lap to the end and focus on everything. But meanwhile, the checker flag is out as he comes to the timeline. The BWS Energy driver comes on through, and by 8 seconds, he takes the win. Mig Hendricks takes the overall pro win there for BWS Energy ahead of Tanner Dibble, who will come across line P2 for DNA Motorsports. As he runs on through, there were 12-second advantage to Aaron Lahr. And then very shortly, we will see our third place man overall in the pro class come to line here. The privateer doing everything he could in the end and bringing home the bottom step of the overall pro podium. And a James Logston P4, James Carr P5 coming to line very shortly there. And then in a brief moment, we will have our AM winner coming on through. But as James Carr crosses the line, P5, what a day it has been for himself, and not the way he wanted it to end. But meanwhile, coming out of the final corner, I don't think he's going to believe it. It's going to be back-to-back wins, but it's also going to be P6 overall for Samuel Bernardi in the 2-1-2. He charges across the line there. Your AM winner ahead of a Gus Blondell, who comes across the line in P2 in class and in P7. And it'll be Francois Schenck, who just finishes up behind in P8 there, behind the Hassel's Motorsports driver for the privateer outfit for Francois Schenck. And then Nick Bader, in the first time this season, will take P3 on the AM podium, P9 overall as he crosses the line ahead of Alberto Alvarez there, who is your prime winner, P10, in what has been a roller coaster rider race. I never thought we'd see him come all the way through to take the win. I don't think he did either, but in the end, that's the way it's played out. Craig Parks P2 in class, and then Edwin Offred P3's already crossed the line and made his way to the pits. Jack Davis there, P13 overall behind the primes, and it's Marcel P14 as he comes on through there for Sunday GT Turtles, flashing his lights as he does. Roger Ganesh there, the other Sunday GT Turtles driver, just outside the AM top 5, but he'll come on from P15. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, now all our drivers who have finished the race on the lead lap. Out of our 31 starters, only 15 made it home on the lead lap. We still do have John Lauzon, who I believe is to finish this race, albeit I'm not 100% sure. In fact, he's making his way out the final corner now, so he will be the last of our technical finishers, 2 laps down in P27. And what a difficult day for the pro driver it has been, and just misfortune and bad luck continuing to plague his championship as he comes on through. But as he crosses the line there, what a thriller from start to finish. And I think for all of our rounds so far, well, we shouldn't really be comparing our rounds, but this really has been perhaps the most intense round of the season. Perhaps it was always set up to be, given the fact that it was a street circuit and therefore the walls are close. They always seem to loom closer and the battles get ever tighter. But with the state of the field in terms of how close it is in every class, and how at any moment a mistake can be the difference between winning the race and coming dead last for each driver in each class, well, Long Beach has definitely served us up a treat today. But speaking of treats, let's take you through those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries. And here they are, ladies and gentlemen. So after round 3's 30 minutes of racing action at Long Beach City here in the state of California in the Cruising USA GR86 Championship, brought to you by the Middle of the Pack Racing League on iRacing, Mig Hendricks took the win in the end by 8.5 seconds of BWS Energy. The way he did it was taking over the position in the fountain with an overtake that I don't think any of us will ever forget ahead of Tanner Dibble. In fact, an overtake so good, as you can probably notice there, it's making me speechless. In fact, causing me to slur my words together. Tanner Dibble at P2 there for DNA Motorsports. And well, whilst he wasn't able to bring home the win, he'll still be very pleased with the P2 overall and in class ahead of Aaron Lahr P3, and then at James Logston there, P4 for Bear Pope Racing, just off the overall podium. But still for him, he'll be very pleased with the fact that he made his way up into the overall top 5 as the race wore on. James Carr P5 there, the privateer, in the end what was 11 seconds off of James Logston. And as we continue our way down through the order, Samuel Bernardi there, P6, your AM winner, P6 overall as well. That'll be a huge points haul for him. him, with the bonus points also factored in. 3 extra points for the winning class, ahead of Auguste Blondel, P7 there for Hassel's Motorsports. Now, rather than jump between drivers this time, ladies and gentlemen, given the fact that the point standings are overall only, what we'll do, we'll walk you through the entire grid and call out our podium finishers in each of the classes as well as we go. That way, just to make it clear with regards to where everyone's finished in relative contrast to one another. After Auguste Blondel in at P7 there, Francois Schink P8, the pro driver, not having the best run today, but still making sure to bring home a P6 in class. The privateer ahead of Nick Bader, the third and final man on the podium for the AM drivers today. The privateer there behind Auguste Blondel and Samuel Bernardi, and he'll be pleased with that given the fact that his due diligence and consistency rewarded him at the end. And then we come to P10 overall driver and your prime winner to complete the top 10, Alberto Alvarez there for Pan Am Racing, finishing 2 seconds clear of Craig Parks, the privateer, and Edwin Offre soldiering on despite all the wounds on the car to come in P12 overall and take third place on the prime podium. Jack Davis, P13, the Rockefeller Racing White driver, and keeping in mind how it all went wrong for Jack Davis at the start of the race, he's made his way all the way back into P13 to finish on the lead lap and P4 in class. Mark Senegal, P14 there for Sunday GT Turtles, not too far behind, 6 seconds behind, and outside what was the top 14 at P15 there, Logan McKinsey, the privateer, with a race end not the way he wanted it to end, but still trying to bring home the results and finishing in P15. Roger Ganesh, P16 for Sunday GT Turtles, ahead of Jerome Bajelas and Rodney Felker, and as we continue our way on down the order there, we can see P19 in Henneberry, the Bear Pope Zero driver. He started it off right today in qualifying, but when it went racing, it all went wrong for the Bear Pope Zero driver, and he'll be looking to bounce back next time out, as will Dan Witchuk, with Witchuk having a difficult end to his race. P20, ahead of Donald Cepek, P21 there, the Bear Pope Racing driver. And then Fernando Takahashi was looking strong at the start. It all fell apart for the MOP Jedi driver, but still we know there's still plenty of fight in him, and he'll be looking to take the fight to Daniel Cedino, his championship rival and the AM championship leader, with a huge dent in his championship lead for Hassel's Motorsports there with that P23 finish today, ahead of Glenn Bratton and Billman DaCosta, and then John Lauzon in at P26 as we continue on down, and John Lauzon just having no fortune whatsoever so far, with Adam Ballard P27 there for Rockefeller Racing White, and then 4 laps down, Kirk Lane at P28 for Bear Pope Zero, with Spencer Cockayne and Milan Harris completing our finishing positions. Lee Porter listed there, but as he has clarified to us in the Twitch chat that he was race control for the purposes of this race, and therefore technically whilst he's listed as P31, a non-participant for this race. But 30 drivers started, and in the end it was a grand total of what was qualified or classified as 29 finishers, with only half the field finishing on the lead lap, but all the same an absolute thriller and exactly the way we wanted it to be at Long Beach. Well, with that, ladies and gentlemen, we'll give you the update on the standings next time out, but for now it is time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show, and perhaps you're sat there right now thinking, how can I potentially get involved in a future middle-of-the-pack racing league series, where it be the future rounds of the Cruising USA GR86 Championship, or other series that we plan to host over the course of 2023, or if you just want to talk to the organisers, talk to the drivers and ask about how they drive the GR86, or anything in between, then one of two things here. Why not head to our official Discord, the invite link available on screen. Alternative, if you don't want to head to all of the heart of the racing action and speak to the drivers and the administrators, then you're always welcome to follow us on our official Twitter. The MPRL Twitter has the following URL, twitter.com/MOP Racing. But with that, ladies and gents, we now pack up our bags, as it is time for us to leave the state of California and make our way to the big state of Texas for the Circuit of the Americas. Round number 4, scheduled to wrap up the Big State Cup in a week's time. The race in action will be occurring on the 1st of February 2023, but we'll be bringing it to you as if it were live on Sunday, the 5th of February 2023. We've brought all your broadcasts to you so far on Saturdays. Just make sure you don't forget the next one will be on Sundays, and who will walk away from Texas are Big State Cup winners in the Pro, the Prime and the AM classes. It's going to be a thriller, and it will all come down to fine margins, there's no doubt about it. So join us next time, ladies and gentlemen, but until then, we have been the Middle of the Pack Racing League. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, but most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.